Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
Yay, Val's back.
The team's back together. Yay.
Did you miss me?
We totally did. It was so different.
That's why I left. I wanted
You wanted to make sure,
realize
yeah.
how much you need me.
Jake and I were kind of fumbling around. What do
What
we
do we
do?
do?
What are we
There's
talking
nobody
about?
here to giggle at all of our jokes and
Yeah,
make fun
it
of
was.
us.
So I had a friend listen to the show and he said, yeah, it was all right with you and Tracy. Like, it was fine. He's like, I felt like I was eavesdropping on a conversation between two buddies. He said, but when Val's there and there's three of you there, it's like I'm invited into the conversation. So
There's something, I don't know what it is about when we get the three of us in a room that is just magical. Like, it just works.
Yeah.
So I hope other people think that because
I
I
think so.
dig it, man.
yeah, I do too.
Jake and I were like, the whole flow is different. This is not.
Yeah.
No, it was just weird.
Yeah.
So
So,
welcome back.
So last night was my birthday.
Happy
birthday, Val.
I had 11 or 12 shots and 4 drinks and no pretzels. I wanted a pretzel so bad and I missed
No
out on the
pretzels?
pretzel. But I'm telling you like that because I'm almost awake right now.
You're doing
You're
really
doing
well.
really well, all things considered.
You did really well last night too. I just want to state that on the record.
I don't know how I was walking.
You did good.
I don't know how I was having conversations.
You were MC.
I was
you were
MC. I
doing
was giving
prize
stuff
raffles.
away.
Yeah.
I was making fun of people. I had a knife at one point. Nobody took it
a
from
big
me.
knife too.
Wow.
A big knife.
I'll post some of the birthday pics on our Facebook
Yeah, we've got to see
page,
him on the
so-
Facebook page.
so you guys can see. But thank you for everybody that I know because some of our listeners wished me a happy birthday. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yep. Happy birthday.
And because it's my birthday,
What are we talking about?
I got to pick the movie today, and we're talking about one of my favorite films, Good Will Hunting.
That's a good choice.
That's a good choice.
I like this one.
I don't know that I believe you that you think that that's a good choice.
I think it's a good choice for you. It's a good movie. I may not be as familiar with it as the two of you are,
Right.
but I think I've seen it years and years ago. But
Young Matt Damon, young
Yeah.
Ben Affleck.
So, yeah.
lots of F words, if I remember
There
correctly.
are a lot of F
But it's
words.
Boston,
But
so
then
it makes
Ever,
sense.
but the thing is I don't ever, when I'm watching the movie, it's not ever like, oh my gosh, there's so many F words. But just because it fits.
Yeah.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it's not, it's just how they are.
Right.
It's just,
It doesn't seem
it's not gratuitous
Exactly.
F-bombs, like a Tarantino movie.
right.
No.
So this movie came out in 1997 when I graduated high school. And what was cool about it is 5 days from graduating high school, I left Utah and I went to USC Film School.
Wow.
My parents are like, you can go to the summer film program at USC at 17 with braces on,
Awesome.
or you can get this car. Now, this car that I wanted was a 69 Chevy red. Like, it was amazing, okay?
Wow.
So I'm looking at this car, but I was like, film school, I got in. Like I didn't they don't accept everyone, and I
Right,
was
you can't just
17,
walk
and
up
my
and do
mom
it.
said yes, I could leave the state, and I
Right.
could go live in dorms
For an entire summer.
for an entire summer, and then I was like, and maybe I'll just end up going there and staying there. So watching this film and then knowing the story behind how this film got made is probably one of the reasons why I also love it so much. It is a good film.
Right.
But if you don't know the story behind it with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they wrote the film. They starred in the film. They had to find people to give them money, which is not an easy thing to do. And then they got a fantastic director. But so the first feature film that you make, you get Robin Williams to star in it.
Right.
I would pee my pants.
Right. Yeah.
I'm peeing my pants right now thinking about it for them. Like, what were they thinking? I mean, how would you you're sitting there.
No
They were
pressure.
in a few films, like Mallrats and like all of the,
Right.
Dazed and Confused. And I think Matt Damon was in a Brendan Fraser movie. We
can
talked
look that
about
up.
it. Yeah, a little while ago. But I mean, they were both like small parts
Right.
in, small movies and stuff like that. But Matt Damon actually dropped out of Harvard to become a filmmaker.
Man.
So it's kind of based on true
him,
stuff.
yeah.
So the essence of this film is Matt Damon's character is just wicked smart. Right?
Wicked smart,
Wicked
yep.
smart. Right? And he lives in Southie. And he has a record. He doesn't have a family, but he has all of his buddies. And he gets a job where he's a janitor at Harvard. And so he's there every day, and every day in the hall in the math area, there's a question and he answers it.
And it's like a major,
it's
hard.
Like, yeah, I mean,
I don't even know where to begin when I see that equation.
And so he gets discovered. He gets arrested in the meantime because he just likes to fight people. So he gets in a fight, gets arrested, and the teacher, the professor that teaches the math class, goes to the jail and says, you know, you can get out of jail, but you have to come and study math with me.
Right. As part of your parole almost.
Which is like a little crazy, but I mean, why not? Right. You would think that
better
than jail, but he's super smart and he already knows all this stuff. So it's kind of the struggle of, you know, him trying to figure out where he wants to be, what he wants to do. He doesn't like the fact that he's smarter than everyone else that he hangs out with. He doesn't know how to have relationships with people because he's never had a family kind of thing. And he meets Minnie Driver. And I think this was one of her like big roles.
First ones,
yeah, she was in some smaller movies before as well. But so she's in it, and I just love how they interact with each other. One of my favorite scenes. I'm just talking this whole time.
I know. This is awesome.
I'm sorry. I love this movie so much.
Hey, this is your birthday episode. Talk as much as you want.
I want everybody to be like, is she going to let anybody
cake.
else talk? I had 2 bites of cake last night and somebody took my cake. Oh. I need more cake.
That should be illegal to take somebody's birthday cake on their birthday. Like, that shouldn't be allowed.
I mean,
this is wrong.
Maybe I lost it. Maybe nobody took it from me, but maybe I lost it.
No, let's go with the story of somebody took it.
Okay, somebody took my birthday cake. One of my favorite scenes, and it's so ridiculous from this movie, just because I love when you have people that can be silly, and they're out on a date, Matt Damon and Minnie Driver's character, and they go into this weird store. It reminds me of like Jabber's Odd Lot. Do you remember that store a long time ago?
Yes, Jabber's Odd Lot was awesome.
You walk in there and you don't know that you need anything.
No.
But you come out with all these things that are like, totally stupid.
How did my life happen without this in it?
Right. Yeah. Well, so that's what this store is that they go into. And they're just looking at things and talking. And like they're having a conversation and she'll turn around and she's got like these glasses, these weird glasses on her face. But they're still having a conversation. And then he, in the middle of the conversation, is like, do you want to see a magic trick? And she's like, of course. Like they just like go along with the fact that they're both weird.
Right.
And so that makes me feel good about myself. Like there's someone out there for me
that'll accept me for all my weirdness.
Will love my weirdness, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then she's like, bring me another Mai Tai. That's one of my favorite quotes from the movie because they're in this store and she's got like these googly eye glasses on and this little like clap slapper thing and and he just doesn't think that it's weird at all.
He's actually kind of fallen for her even more because of this.
Yeah.
And that's the whole I mean, when you're in a relationship, it's kind of fun to be with somebody where you realize I can just be myself 100% and they're not going to think, and it's kind of fun.
Hashtag goals.
Hashtag goals.
Find somebody that loves all my crazy and my weird.
Yep.
But I mean, the cast of this movie, I mean, now we think it's such a big deal.
Right.
But back then, the biggest thing in this movie
was a very independent
Robin Williams.
Film.
Yes. Yeah. So Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Robin Williams, Minnie Driver, Stellan Skarsgard, who I love so much, Casey Affleck, Cole Hauser is always the best dick in any movie. Like, I love it. And it just, you know, you're watching the movie and you're like, oh yeah, I know them and them. And it's so great because Casey Affleck really hadn't done anything. And everybody's like, oh, he's just in this movie because his brother's in the movie. And they have one of my favorite scenes as well, where they're in the car and they're driving and they all like just go everywhere together. I'm like, when did these people ever work? Right? I don't know that they do. I don't think Casey Affleck's character does. And they go and get burgers and he puts the burger in layaway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this burger up here in layaway on the dashboard. And every week you can pay me a little bit for this burger. And then when you're done paying me, you can have the burger.
Right.
And he's like, I want a double burger. Like, I love their accents. I'm going to put this burger in layaway. And at the end of the week, you can pay me and you can have your burger. Just give me my burger.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, it just is a real life movie. I feel like it's not, but it is.
It's
like
almost,
you feel
it's
like
almost documentary like in a lot of ways
Well,
because
you
you
just
feel
feel
like you're
like
just
you're one of
watching
them.
this. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why it ended up being so successful and such a monumental film. You mentioned that a lot of it seems to be based on the experiences of Matt Damon, and he and Ben Affleck wrote it. And you always talk about writers should write what they know. And
Yeah,
you can
they
tell
should.
as you watch this movie that these are their experiences, a lot of them. And so it comes across as genuine.
Well, and that's why Van Zandt decided to direct it, and why Robin Williams decided to get into it, because they're like, we love, like, Robin Williams, you know, is not far from being from Southie, you know, and so it was kind of, they all grew up in this area, and Robin Williams had made a movie before on, you know, on the Harvard campus. It was a long time ago, though. I don't remember what movie that was.
I don't know.
But or about college or something. I mean, he's made a lot of movies about college, but he said this one was a little bit different. And so he's a therapist in this movie. If you have not seen this movie, one, I don't understand your life choices. And two, like, get on it. So Will Hunting is Matt Damon's character, and then Robin Williams plays the therapist because every time Will Hunting gets arrested, he is so smart because he's so smart. He reads he goes to the library and reads books about everything. So he actually defends himself in court. And this judge this last time is like, listen, I see your rap sheet here. I see how you've gotten away with like quoting things from 1776.
Because he just BS's these other judges.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they let him out and he's like, no, I'm not, you need to learn that what you're doing, you can't just have fights with people. And so he's like, you have to go study with this guy, but you also need to go to therapy. And so the professor, who is just this big mathematician professor at Harvard, thinks his shit does not stink, but it does, like everyone else's.
Right.
He starts sending him to all of these really uppity, like, therapists, those scenes are fun within themselves.
Oh, those are hilarious.
Because if you've ever known anyone that thinks therapy is a crock, you know what they'll do to get out of it. And so, but he's going with it, basically. He shows up. And so the last resort...
He's trying to entertain himself because he's like, I'm bored, I have to be here.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. So the last resort, after all these therapists are like, I'm not dealing with this
can't deal with this
crackhead, basically. And that's where, by the way, my word shenanigans originated from this film. Because he is in a therapist office. You guys are learning something.
Here
where
we go.
Shenanigans.
This is like a monumental moment
really
for the show.
is.
So everyone
this is the
thinks
origin
it's
story
like
of
the inner
Shenanigans.
chamber.
The origin story of Shenanigans came from Good Will Hunting in 1997. And everyone thinks that I clambered onto Shenanigans when it was like going around Facebook a couple of years ago. No, I have been utilizing Shenanigans and Tomfoolery since this movie, because Will Hunting, he is basically just pulling this, therapist chain. And he's like, listen, the therapist says, no more shenanigans, no more tomfoolery, no more ballyhoo. And I said, there needs to be more shenanigans, more tomfoolery, and more ballyhoo in my life.
Absolutely.
And at that point in my life at 17, I had no idea that there could be shenanigans, tomfoolery, and ballyhoo.
This opened up a whole new world for you.
So I just grabbed it.
You were old school.
So that's
That's where it
you
came
guys
from.
now know.
That's awesome.
That's also
This
one.
is a special moment. It really is. Like, this episode now is like a very important episode in our canon.
Like a group hug right now. This is great. We just bonded even tighter.
I think so. I love Shenanigans even more now, knowing the background.
Yeah, but I think everyone thinks that it's like probably she got drunk one night, Shenanigans. No, like this movie means a lot to me. Like I was just like, I could make movies too because they figured it out. And then I watched the film and you learn a little bit about yourself. Regardless, I think, of what your background is, watching this movie, you question your relationships in your life. You question if the path that you're on is the right one. And I think that's exactly what Robin Williams sticks in Will Hunting's head, because nobody can really get in there.
Right.
And he doesn't put up with his nonsense. He goes to him for, he's the last resort as a therapist, basically. And he was the roommate of this snobby professor when they went to school. And the snobby professor thinks that, he could be doing bigger and better things with his life, but he likes the teaching he's doing. He likes the therapy he's doing. He gets to, so he takes on the case because he's also from Southie. And he has, there's so many great scenes and so many great quotes in this movie, but Robin Williams was married and his wife died. in the movie, not in real life.
Right.
His character. And he's explaining this great baseball game that was just like everyone in Boston needed to be at this game. And they're explaining, what happened in the play and everything. And Will Hunting is like, so you were there? And he's like, no, I didn't go. And he's like, what do you mean? Because he had tickets to this game.
Right.
And he's like, I slid my tickets across the table to my friends. And I said, I have to see about a girl. Because he saw this girl in a bar. And he knew from the minute he saw her, he was going to marry her.
Wow.
So he's like, I slid my, tickets across the table and said, I got to see about a girl. And he's like, and your friends let you? He's like, yeah, they let me. He's like, I wouldn't,
I wouldn't do that.
But
this Red Sox here.
You just think about your priorities. Like, he married this woman. There was this moment that he can go back and watch on TV, and now you could Google.
Sure.
Right? At the time, there was no Googs.
Right.
No Googing.
But
Googing? That's not the right word.
I was going to let that slide, but
I mean, there's so many, I'm a romantic, and there's so many romantic moments in this movie without being like, blah, you know what I mean? Like, and you just question, but I love that so much when he was just nonchalantly, no, I didn't go.
yeah.
I went and I met my wife, and I knew I was going to marry her, and I married her. And
Well, and I love that scene because there's such a great buildup as he's describing the
yes,
game. This is like,
and I'm not even going to
this
try
huge,
to go through it. You have to watch
But
it.
it's this huge, and it just keeps building and building. And Matt Damon's getting more and more excited,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I heard about this, and you were there. And
No.
It just, boom, the floor drops down on him.
No, I didn't go.
The other scene that I really love, kind of talking about the romance, is when he's first meeting Minnie Driver, and he's at the bar. And
Oh my gosh, one of the best.
he is very kind of rough and tumble and blue collar.
Yeah.
And then these guys from Harvard, is it Harvard?
Harvard Law School.
Come
Harvard.
in. And
Everybody in Boston's like, just stop.
Is there one person in Boston
I don't
that's
know.
listening
I have
to this
no
right
idea.
now?
we're going to
We're
look at our
probably safe.
analytics and find out.
Listen, I'm living with someone that's from New Hampshire, and he's got a wicked cool accent. So I feel like through him, I can be a little bit like
You're justified.
justified. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so they're in this bar.
And these guys come up, and these guys are trying to intimidate him because they're Harvard.
Yeah.
And he holds his own with them.
Well, this guy, this pony boy, right? He's like tall, blonde. I think his name's Hans. He looks like a Hans,
Probably,
right?
yeah.
And he's just regurgitating like the book.
Right.
He doesn't have any of his own thoughts. And that's why how I feel like sometimes, because I don't have a college degree. I never graduated, right? I had a baby instead. And then my life just kind of went in the fun direction, and I just never went back to school. And in this movie, it showed me, one, don't not go back to school if you need to go back to school, but that you can be just as smart as someone else regardless of where you're from and what education level that you've had. Because he had no street smarts. He had no game at picking up ladies.
He had no game.
But he could memorize a textbook.
Right.
And Matt Damon had read the same textbook. And so he starts, basically quoting the
line-
book
yeah,
line for
back
line
and
to this
forth,
guy
yeah.
because this guy's hitting on Minnie Driver, and he goes away. And then, he gets Minnie Driver's number, and then these guys are like,
love this
he
scene.
runs into them later.
They're like at a little restaurant.
Yeah, they're getting coffee or something.
Yeah.
And he puts the napkin up to the window, and
first
he's like, do you like apples? Excuse me? Do you like apples? And he's like, yeah. And
Yeah.
he puts the, the
Slams
napkin
the
up to the
window up
window, and he's
against.
like, I got a number. How do you like them apples? And I was like, yes. Like Rocky scene, like I was like, yes.
He got the number.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just
How
like
do you
so
like them
many
apples?
great moments for the
It's a great
underdog in
line.
this movie.
It's such a great line.
Yeah. So great. Yeah.
And I do love that difference. I was talking the other day with my wife about the difference between being educated and being smart. You can
Right.
be educated. You can go to the nicest school. You can everything else, and you can still be really stupid.
I know some really, really smart, stupid people.
Yeah.
And I love them. But I don't understand. Like, you can calculate and do all these things in your mind, but did you really just eat that? Like, did you really just say that out loud
Yeah.
to a person in public? Like, do you not, there, no couth? No, like, I don't understand. But maybe people think that about me as well. Like, if she would just go back to school, like, she maybe
I
would
don't
say
think so.
fuck so much.
We've got this one guy at work, and he has no filter, and he'll just and like if he's tired, he'll just let out this amazingly huge, loud yawn that everybody can hear across the
What?
floor. And then he'll just like
My
stand up
dog
and
does that
stretch.
when she needs to poop. Like she makes a loud
he'll
knock.
just stand
Maybe
up
that's
and
what
be
it-
like,
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe he needs to go to the bathroom. Have you talked to him about that? Like, it's just down the hall.
he's incredibly smart, but it just drives everybody nuts because all of a sudden you're like working, it's quiet, and you hear
Is he going to hear this?
he doesn't listen.
Okay.
But a couple people at work do, so they're going to laugh at this.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Now, if I ever go to your work, I'm going to be be like, is that the yawner?
is that the guy?
the yawner?
yeah, is that the one?
Yeah. We're going to wonder every
man.
time. It's awesome.
But I love, this was one of, if I remember correctly, this was one of the first more dramatic roles
Yeah.
that Robin Williams took on. And that kind of made some news because people are like, wait, we're so used to him being this wild,
because
wacky
since
comedian.
like Dead Poet Society and since Good Morning Vietnam, he had been doing
He'd been moving in that direction for sure.
Well, he'd been doing some mainly
Right.
comedies at that point,
Right.
And so then he got back into this, and it was everybody was very surprised, but he wasn't. He's like, I don't understand why people are so surprised. This is a great film. I've done independent films, more independent
An
films
actor's
before.
an actor.
Ben Affleck, I think this is one of my favorite roles of his.
I would agree.
He is such a good friend. And so Ben Affleck is just a regular blue collar guy from Southie. He works construction. He's the one that has the car with all of his friends, and he goes around every morning and he picks all his friends up and they all go to work together. And when Will tells him what he's been doing, like, I've been going to Harvard every day, I've been like doing math with these guys, and they want to set me up with working at some of these big companies and making a lot of money, and he's like, I just want to do that. And he's like, why are you being stupid?
Right.
He's like, you have something that none of us have. And he's like, I every morning get in my car and drive to your house and hope that one morning I'm going to get here and you're not going to be here.
That's a great line.
Yeah. As a best friend, I hope one morning I'm going to come to your house and you're not going to be here, because if you're not here, it means that you got out. It means that all of us schmucks that are going to be working construction, and this isn't me, this is him.
That's him. Right.
That have work in construction, trying just to live.
Right.
Like, we know that you got out, and I can think every day that you are doing something that I can't do. And that was a great moment. And then it goes to them like negotiating. And he sends his friends to go negotiate these jobs he doesn't want. And that's hilarious because they give Ben Affleck like a suit that does not fit him at all. And he goes into this meeting and these executives are just looking at him like, what's happening right now? But that leads me to one of my other favorite parts. And again, the whole movie is my favorite, but Will Hunting is in the office of these big execs that want him to work there.
Right.
And so he's explaining to Robin Williams what he said to these guys. And he's like, well, why don't you want to work at one of these places? And he's like, well, I don't want to work one of these places because they make oil. And or the oil and the tuna. He's just explaining this ridiculous reason why not to take this job. Right.
Right.
And just how his mind works in that moment and how he's describing it is like, is my kid trying to get things with stories like that from me? Like, what's the most elaborate story my kid has come up with to either get something or get out of something? Because that's basically what he does.
Right.
Is he comes up with these elaborate stories to make it okay for him to not live up to his full potential.
Right.
And Robin Williams, like, I'm not buying any of this.
He just cuts right through it. Yeah.
Like, you need to do something. And, during this time, him and his relationship with Minnie Driver's character kind of falls out of place because she's going to go to Stanford to finish her degree. And she wants Will to go because he doesn't really have anything.
There's nothing holding him here.
His friends, yes. But I mean, there's not a whole lot holding him there. And he's just like, no, I have this life and I have da-da-da-da. And so she leaves brokenhearted. And by the end of the movie, he slips a little note in Robin Williams' mailbox.
Love to see.
And he said, I'm going to see about a girl. And he's like, Effer stole my line.
He delivers it so well. Like, he's proud, but he's also kind of pissed.
He's so proud, but he's like, stole my line.
It's
my line. So it all ends up like happy ending. Ben Affleck shows up at the house. He's not there because he had left. They bought him a car for his birthday, so he drives this beater to California. And all I could think in my mind is they're not going to let him through.
Yeah, they're going to stop them at the border.
In
Yeah.
California, they have different. Is that weird? That's what. In California, they have different emissions. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not going to let that car
no,
through.
that's not allowed.
You have fruit. Throw that away. And two, this car, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you've gone to California, when was the last time you've seen a beater driving? I mean, it's just
And
not.
I don't even think it has to do with emissions. I just think they want everything pretty there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. That's why they don't let me move there.
Oh, stop it. You're
Sorry.
adorable. I don't know. I love this movie, one, because it's the F words, and that's like, I love that. At the time in my life, though, I didn't care about that. But right now it's good. But I think it holds up. Like,
it
you can
totally
watch
does.
this movie and it doesn't feel like it was made in 1997 because there's nothing really,
Dating
they're
that.
not texting people, but great.
Right.
Right.
Like, I think that
Well, and
everything
he even
else, though,
has
is still relatable.
He has the line in the bar where he's like, any fool can go to the library and get the same textbooks that you're paying all this money
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Now it'd be like anybody can go online, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you still have to go to the library sometimes when you're in school. By the
Oh
way,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
the library still needs. You still need to go. there.
Something, yeah, it's a requirement.
Well, and that I think anytime you've just got a good story, good stories will
Last.
stand the test of time.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do. Whether it's
I'm just a little bummed that they haven't written anything else
I
together.
was just gonna
Like,
say
why
that.
haven't they made another movie together? Because Matt Damon's better? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Their careers have taken very different.
Both successful.
Yeah, both
but
extremely
very different
successful.
routes.
I mean, Ben Affleck, I think, took a little bit more time to kind of figure out what he wanted to be as
Well,
a filmmaker and
I
an
think
actor.
people
and-
didn't take him as seriously
Yeah.
as soon as they took Matt Damon. But Matt Damon was very specific in the roles that he
Yeah.
took.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think that was a big difference. I mean, you look at it with Ben Affleck right after this movie. I think the next big movie he was in was Armageddon, which is a
I love
fun, great
Armageddon.
movie.
I love
but
it.
it's a very different kind of movie
Well, and
than
I think
Good
it's a
Will
little
Hunting.
bit harder because Matt Damon doesn't look like your leading man. And so
Right.
he can fit into other roles a little bit easier than Ben Affleck at the time. He looked like, okay, he's
Yep.
our, and then he made Geely, which
That was
hurts my stomach every time I say it out loud.
And then there
Pearl
was
Harbor.
the Daredevil incident.
Oh, why did you even bring it up?
Well, because I thought we were talking about
it was
bad
just- I
decisions.
thought
this
it
is
was
her
just-
birthday episode.
I thought it was.
I thought this is what we were doing right now.
I thought that everybody just knew that we didn't talk.
I'm sorry.
Daredevil, that movie is like Voldemort.
You just don't say the name.
You don't even talk
The
about
movie that must not be named.
Yes. Because do you know how much I love Daredevil? And I love both of those actors and actresses. And that
Yep.
movie was horrible.
It was really, really bad.
Why did you do that?
I'm sorry. I thought that's what we were doing.
For once, I'm not the villain of the episode. This is nice. Okay.
But Matt Damon was much more selective, and I think his big action movie was like The Bourne Identity
Yeah.
and they were very serious, different.
I think people took him more seriously as an
Yeah.
actor than Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it wasn't really until he did Argo where people were like, oh, okay, this guy's
Argo is
talented.
one of my favorite
Yeah.
films
You
as
know,
well.
and there was kind of this reappreciation of him, and then a lot of that kind of went away with the Batman issue, which
Yeah.
I thought he was a fine Batman. I didn't like the way
yeah.
Zack Snyder took the character,
Yeah.
but I thought he did okay with it for
Yeah.
sure.
I think he was fine as Batman, and I'm sad that we won't see his Batman movie that was promised, and I think it would have been really well
he
done.
wanted to write and direct a standalone Batman.
And I
film.
think
Could've
as
been-
a filmmaker, Ben Affleck is an incredible talent.
yeah,
And I think it just took a little bit longer
he's
to
taken
see
some
that a little
interesting
bit more
choices.
clearly. Yeah.
in his
Well, I
roles,
mean,
yeah.
his personal life kind of got in the way.
Yeah.
He's made some bad choices both in films and out of films.
And in tattoos.
Ben Affleck, if you're listening, you need to get your shit together because we miss you and we want you to be good. But right now, no. Gus Van Sant, I love.
Brilliant filmmaker.
And, I didn't really know who he was before this film.
Mm-hmm.
But since he has Lost Boys,
Yep.
which I don't know if you've seen. The other one that he did Milk and Psycho in 1998. And so he's made some really great films. And then the soundtrack, the score to this film is incredible as well. So it's all around just a really great, solid movie. Like when I watch it, I'm like, where are the problems? And I'm sure there are. And maybe it's just because I've got, like my rose colored glasses on because I just really like this film.
Right.
But I really don't. I mean, maybe his relationship with Minnie Driver's character could have been a little more
developed,
solid and not so froofy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's what the movie was about.
No.
All in whole. So I thought I got enough of what I needed in that, you know.
Yeah.
And we got to know all of his friends, and we got to know the area. I would have liked to see, like, I want to go and read the screenplay because I haven't yet, which is crazy that I haven't, and see what they cut.
Oh yeah.
Like what they cut from the film. That would be interesting to me.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, because it's actually the perfect length for a film. Like it didn't need to be 3 hours.
No, It's exactly how long the story needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, if you want your film to be taken seriously, it's got to be 3 hours or more. That's the way it works now.
Stupid. It's gross and stupid.
That's the way it goes. And if you want to be taken really seriously, you go for 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, that means that you're an auteur and a genius. Forget the audience's bladder capacity.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You have a vision.
And I say that knowing full well that all three of us are going to jump at the chance to see Rise of Skywalker when it comes out in December.
I did not
even though it's
realize
going to be 4 hours long.
Gus Van Sant directed My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love that film.
That's a good one, too.
I also really like the song from the B-52s, My Own Private Idaho. Anyway.
I'm not familiar with that.
You want to sing that a little bit for us? You want to
Yes,
give us
please.
a little
No,
taste? Give a
no.
little taste
Come
of
on,
that
I'm
song.
always singing on this show. Come on.
I thought both of you would know the song.
I mean, I might, but I wouldn't know until you, like, maybe,
Give us a little something.
a little taste. Come on, you can do it.
So if you guys were going to give this film
For
a
my
grade,
For my birthday, I'm going to pull the card. For my birthday, just give a little
wow.
taste.
Drop the birthday
And you
card
can't play
on
the
you.
song because we don't have the rights, so you actually have to sing it or talk it. Just little taste.
it's
Five,
the
6 seconds.
B-52s.
Right.
Right.
I understand who
So it's
they
kind
are.
of that same feel that all of their, like Rock Lobster.
And what are the words?
Well, I mean, part of the words are My Own Private Idaho.
Okay.
But like that's in the chorus. It's like, My Own Private Idaho. I don't know all the words, all right? But I know that part.
I'll take that.
I'll take that.
We got you to kind of sing, kind of.
My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah, see, it sounds like that. Yeah, that's it. All right, we won't play it on the air, but I'm going to find it so we can play it after.
Okay. Is there anything that I left out about this film?
I don't think so.
Oh, there was a moment with him and the professor. And he's like this, they're in his office and he's doing this stuff and the professor wants him to go back and explain why he decided to do something that way. And he's like, look, this is just how I did it. Like Will is getting really frustrated at that point. And he takes his paper, because he kind of sends him home with homework,
Right.
To do. And he lights it on fire and he puts it in the trash can, and the professor jumps, pulls it out and like pats it down. Like, this is, what are you,
This
like,
is a work of art.
this is the Holy Grail. Why are
Right.
you, something like that? Why are you doing that? And at that moment, Will, you can see the look on his face like, I didn't understand before, but this is really important to you. Because he was just kind of messing around.
Right. Right.
But, and you kind of got to see that vulnerable moment of the professor too, because the whole time he's walking around again like he's owns everything.
The professor
and,
at the school, and
Yeah. And so he has that vulnerable moment, and Will kind of has the moment of, oh, like this is important work to some people. And, so they both kind of had that moment. And then his assistant, the professor's assistant, kind of explains to him, like, I don't think you understand what's going on here. Like, we can't do this. You can do this.
Right,
like,
right. And we've been doing this for decades. We've been studying.
Yeah.
We've been teaching, and we can't do what you can do.
Yeah. So it's just kind of everybody has a realization right there, I think. And I really liked that. Was a nice moment.
That's a good.
Yeah.
There's so many little quiet moments like that
Yes.
throughout the film that I love. Yeah.
Yes.
You guys even talked about it really quietly, too.
Oh,
It was really quiet. It was almost a little NPR there for a minute.
NPR.
We're showing our dynamic range.
I'm not always really loud and crass. Sometimes I can be really cute and quiet.
Aww.
Not often. Don't get used to it.
All right. What would you guys grade this film? Seriously now.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's in my top 5. I give this movie an A. I can watch it all the time, and I don't ever get sick of it. And I just think it's a very well-made movie by a first movie, like out of the gate,
Right.
you know, and it was this good. Like, that doesn't happen. And I know it didn't happen overnight. It took about 5 years to actually get it made.
But it's almost like its own true Hollywood story.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I give it an A. So solid A.
Yeah, I'd be right in the A range too. A, maybe A minus, but probably more towards the A. Great direction, nothing flashy, but the story didn't need it. Good score, great acting, great screenplay. Really, really, really tight screenplay. So yeah.
I think it's awesome. I remember this movie and the impact this movie had on the film industry at the time.
Yeah.
In '97, it was everybody talked about. I think it was nominated for Academy Awards for the screenplay. I don't remember if it won.
They
did
won.
win. Yeah,
Yeah, they won.
So I mean, you talk about hitting it out of the park your first time out of the gate. I mean, that's awesome and that's great.
Yeah.
And so for me, I always wanted to be a writer. I always enjoyed, and so this was one of those stories that I remember. Like, see, you can be successful, and I think that's awesome. So I think it just for that alone, the impact that it had, the careers that it launched. I think you're right. A seems to make sense. So
Nice.
Cool.
awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. It was great to have you back.
I'm so glad we're all back together.
The family's back together.
Let us know what you thought about the film. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you agree or disagree about Ben Affleck or Matt Damon and anything we said? We just want your feedback. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You can send that feedback to podcast@moviesthatmakeus.com. You can also leave feedback on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
You can tweet at us at Movies Make Us. You can also follow us on Instagram at Movies That Make Us. So
Yay.
and we've got
Come see us at Fan X.
yeah, we're all going to be at Fan
Couple
X.
weeks.
I'm going to put together our schedules and put them up on
I
our
have 9
Facebook page.
panels.
I know
I've got 9
you're
panels,
super
too.
busy. I've got
Yeah.
4, so
That's a full load.
yeah.
Four's
I'm not
hefty.
complaining. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
excited.
I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that I get a celebrity panel. They haven't handed them out yet.
Holland.
I'm not getting Tom Holland. That's not going to happen. But I would love Hayden Christensen.
That would
Yeah,
be,
that would be really cool.
Ian, is he with
Ian
Ian?
McDermott.
Ian
Yeah,
McDermott.
yeah, they're doing a panel together.
Makes sense.
And so that would be amazing. But I mean, they give me something cool every year,
Yeah.
like I had
You had
Pocahontas last time.
I was going to say, yeah, you had the lady who voiced
Yeah,
Pocahontas.
she's absolutely amazing and just like totally breathtaking in person. So yeah, I hope I get one. And if I do, then we'll kind of do some behind the scenes with that too.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's the time that we have, and thanks for listening, and we won't see you at the movies.
You want to sing us out?
No. I knew that was coming, but my answer is still no.
it's wicked cool.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.